Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Nerdarchy Dave.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And today we're going to talk Dungeons and Douchebags, what to do when you have a terrible dungeon master.
Jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy the newsletter, game nerdy tips for your RPGs, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Alright, so bad DMs, we've all been there, all done that, and we've had them, we've been them.
Well, let's categorize it, because there's several different ways that a GM or DM can be a bad DM.
Yeah, let's not talk about the people that are just like learning the rule set and just trying to figure out how to run a game, but people that just run games in terrible, terrible ways.
Yeah,
that, make you feel icky and want to shower after you
I feel
play.
like they're all worth mentioning, though, and maybe addressing a little bit, because someone might need some help.
Yeah.
Right.
You have the inexperienced GM, you have the inept GM, and then you have the GM that it's not so much that he's a bad GM, but he plays the game different than you.
Right.
Well, but sometimes so drastically different that you're like, who the fuck do you play Dungeons and Dragons like? Like, where are you going to find a group of people that want to play a game like this?
They're out there somewhere, I'm
Maybe.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately,
Maybe.
There's also the killer DM.
Yeah.
Right. For all types, there is somebody out there looking for that style of game. And I think there are.
I'm fucking.
It's just a matter of finding the group that is going to match your playing style and your level of enjoyment.
So this is something that comes up in the comments over and over again. Like, what do I do about a bad DM? What do I do about a bad GM? And really, the answer is very complex or very simple, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right.
The short of it is, if you don't enjoy playing in that game, leave the game, find a game you do enjoy. Because at the end of the day, we've said this over and over again, you can't actually change a person. Correct. You can't make them somebody else.
Right.
But now, what are some of the things you can do, and what are some of the circumstances? One, like, who are you gaming with? If you're gaming with your friends, it becomes much more complex and much more difficult, where you could lose friendships over this. You're going to hurt feelings.
Right.
It's a very diplomatic sort of situation.
Yeah, you're gonna get involved in a conversation, and you're gonna have some back and forth. If your friendship is more important than the game, then you can either
suck it up, Promdi.
Suck it up, or you can attempt to negotiate and try to see if you both can come to a middle ground.
You can lead by example. You can take over the mantle of DM. And absolutely, if you're the one complaining, I feel like you should take over the mantle and do it the way you think it should be done.
Absolutely.
Or shut up. Yeah. Or find another game. But because it's real easy to tell other people what to do, but it takes a little more chutzpah to man up or woman up
and show.
And do it yourself. You know what I mean? And do the extra work.
Yeah.
If it's the case of a inept DM because they don't know the rules or whatever, maybe someone can help. Like,
somebody can take on the role of rules lawyer. The person, like, I actually, the game I was playing last night, I had the mantle of, if there was a rules clarification or question, like, I was point person for that, and the GM was focused on actually propelling the story and keeping it going. So that's what I did last night.
There you go.
We talk about it in other videos as well, as about like handing out different jobs for people to help the game run smoother and faster.
Right, you take away some of the workload, because I mean, really, as Dungeon Master, your primary thing is to focus on story and portrayal of NPCs and also enemy tactics. Like, those three tasks are a lot of work in of itself. So if you can delegate other sort of resource management jobs to your players who only have to run one character, that's a good way to go.
The inexperienced GM, for the most part, this is just letting them, letting them get practice and play the game and get better. I mean, there may be things like maybe they make the wrong rules calls and things like that because of their inexperience, but for the most part, unless it's like really detrimental to the game or the characters, you can usually let it go until after the session is over and be like, and point it out and in a tactful and polite manner.
At the end of the day, we're there to have fun. That's what this hobby is about. And if you've got an inexperienced DM who really enjoys doing it, they need practice. So if you aren't willing to let them get it, then they're not going to, and they might lose the passion for the game because they can't do what they want, and that's to run it.
Yeah, they could be browbeaten out of the hobby by people being a jerk about their miscalled rules calls or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can still enjoy the game, even if they don't get all the rules correct. Sometimes it might be more fun if they just go off on their tangents and do their own things, and you just kind of go with it. As long as everybody can have fun at the table and not stress out over the rules, especially in rules game like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, where most of the things in the game they kind of throw back to the GM and leave kind of amorphous and vague anyway.
Yeah, ambiguity reigns king. So that's pretty well covered for the sort of how to cope with the inept Dungeon Master. But I guess now we can do the WTF DM, like basically people that have their own ideas of how rule sets should function and make these weird like ad hoc rulings on things that just nobody at the table tends to agree with, I guess is kind of the thing. So what do you do with that, right?
Can you give an example? I'm not really grasping this one.
So like somebody that okay, say you're in an underwater adventure, and so you cast Fireball underwater, and there's nothing in the rules books that says it's going to function any differently, but now the GM rules that the characters have advantage. Anyone in the area effect has advantage on saving throws, and it does half damage to begin with. Right, so that means on a successful saving throw, they're essentially taking a quarter damage, which means your spell effect is a quarter as effective, and you had no way of knowing that as the character, right?
Right. If a DM makes that kind of call without saying, "Well, you would know this," that's where it kind of gets a little beat.
It depends too, how much do they have to say? Like they could just say, "Yeah, you can do that, but it'll be less effective."
Right.
You suspect. But in the same token, if you cast Lightning Bolt, are they giving you a bigger area of effect?
Right.
Are they giving disadvantage on the saves? So it depends.
Or are you injuring yourself because water's a conductor and you're right there.
Yeah.
You're the origin of it, so you're going to take damage too. So all these things of if it seems like the Dungeon Master just is always ruling against the party, it seems like.
I think that what you're really talking about is the killer DM.
Well, not yes and no, because they could just always be making just very bullshit rules calls. And not necessarily that the underwater thing is the most bullshit of range of rules calls, but there could be other things kind of like that.
Yeah, but in the sense that the ruling against the players, that tends to be the hallmark of the killer DM. They're out, it's me against you, and I'm the one that actually gets to make and change the rules. So it's
I
always
get to kind of win
in your favor.
Yeah.
So there is that, and and here's the thing: there's different degrees of killer GM.
Right.
Some are strictly by the rules. If you don't survive, you don't survive. It's on you. It's not me. It's them.
Well, and to be fair, as you've pointed out, as the one sitting behind the screen, you have access to every monster you want. If you want to kill the party, it's not that difficult to do. It's easy to throw out a challenge that will wipe out the party.
No way, you can just grumpy cat it. A rock falls, you die. Good.
Well,
literally, there's not even if you want to be a killer GM, there's not even any fair about it. A mountain rains from the sky, falls on you all, and you're all dead. So I win.
All killer GMs have their own honor system that they play by.
They're lawful evil to degrees.
Now, when I got involved with this group, you and our friend Steve were that kind of hard DM where it's you die.
Actually, that's a perfect example because the difference between me and Steve was still huge.
Right.
I may have been a hard DM, but he was extremely harsh GM.
He was that kind of person that I think fits a little bit into the caliber of what Ryan's saying, where he's making weird rules calls and doing strange things.
We have a perfect example of that.
Okay, I call you lawful evil in that situation, and Steve was chaotic evil.
Okay,
right.
All right. So what's your example?
All right. So I forget everything except for the fact that we had to face these things he called guardians, and there were 4 of them, and in one round they all dropped 4 different walls on top of us.
All right. Now, but to be fair, not to be fair, but to really show the egregiousness of this, we were a level 9 party.
Were we sleeping in camp?
There were three of us that were level 9. The other 6 players in the group had either just come in fresh or had previously
Character
died last
deaths or
session.
something, yeah.
So he allowed, rather than starting at level 1, he was generous enough to allow them
Level
to
3.
start at level 3. We're all in a building. This creature that's a guardian was big enough that it ripped the roof off of the building that we were in, and then
Summons 4 wall spells at the same time: wall of ice, wall of stone, wall of fire, wall of force. And you had to take damage from each of them. And like you might have gotten like a saving throw. Or
What makes this story better is that actually we were at dinner by I think an evil NPC that we didn't know at the time, and so we were poisoned. So pretty much everyone who didn't make the saving throw had succumbed to it, which was pretty much all the level 3s. So we were unconscious while this was going
so no
on.
save.
That's right.
Yeah, so there was no even saving throw. Yeah.
So minimum damage on the walls.
Outright killed
any of the
3s.
low level guys, and it's like this is where the session started.
Yeah.
So for 5 hours, the people that didn't have characters, the only thing that they had to do with their time is work on their next character.
That he was going to promptly kill.
Yeah, but he's probably gonna be generous again and let me level 4.
Maybe.
I don't know. 4 is a bit rough for him.
Yeah. So, but that's an extreme example of a killer GM, and that is absolutely bad GMing. And he kind of built up to that. Like there was some really cool story stuff before then. But back when we were gaming too, you had a lot less options. You couldn't just jump online and go to Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds and jump into a game. It was like whoever was in your area you're going to play with. Right. And this jerk actually happened to be one of our good friends at the time. One of my good friends.
And we continued to stay with this GM, and he told some awesome stories. His
narration was really good.
When he was a PC, he made some
really interesting characters. That's the thing. Like his characterization was really good. Narratively, he was good. But if you're a killer GM like that out and out, like none of your narrative matters because you're only going to destroy it eventually anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it's just like you build this beautiful building, and
another example too, like the same GM, he was a control freak. So like we always joke the best and worst thing that could happen to a character was he either liked it or didn't like it. Yeah, because he began trying to take control and make changes on your character. Like so, these are all examples of bad, what we consider a bad GM.
Yeah, I had a character, straight just human fighter. I wanted to be the general of an army. I didn't want to be a king. I didn't want to, do any of that kind of stuff. I wanted to lead men into battle. That's what I told him. Loved it. Next thing you know, he's got my character on course to, take over a kingdom and sit on a throne. I'm like,
people who sit on thrones don't really lead armies. That's generally not what happens.
He Conan'd you, man.
It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare.
So
I didn't land on this throne. This throne landed on me. Yeah. So so what can you do in the instance of if you have the GM like Steve? You can quit playing the game. You can deal with it.
Yeah, you can make the meta game of playing the game, like just figuring out how to fucking survive in that game, right? Like people that are like heavily weighted, like you just figure out like what can I do, and the game is keeping your character alive.
There's nothing you can do in a GM like that. Yeah, they seek and destroy.
Well, yeah, I mean it's kind of seeing how long you can survive.
You take the Mike route.
Yeah.
Oh, what was the Mike route?
You play the kind of characters that kind of skate in the background. You're always willing to run from combat and any kind of aggression if need be. You do off the wall things that don't make sense at the time, but somehow it works into the plot anyway.
Be insane. Is that what you're saying? That's the best defense.
Basically.
Yeah, you can run the game yourself or look for another GM. Like when you have a certain kind of DM, there's only certain things you can do, and unfortunately, most of them involve leaving the situation.
Well, so and when it gets to the point, so maybe there's a bunch of players that you play with that you really, you like them as people, they're good players, but it ends up that the dungeon master is irredeemable. There's also the real egregious stuff where like the kind of dungeon master that might allow like PCs to like rape other PCs and like ridiculous bullshit like that type of stuff happening. And like, and especially completely happening in like another tasteless way or whatever. So if they're an irredeemable dungeon master, you can absolutely leave, and you could try to take the good players with you. Like, start your own group. Get these people that, like, hey...
it's like when you're a hairdresser and you're working someplace and you're really good at what you do, you leave, you take all your clientele.
Yeah, or any sort of thing that has a client-based sort of thing. But yeah, like, you can either run the game yourself start a new colony or promised land with this group of people, or maybe you guys try to find a new, better dungeon master. Basically, we had examples of a lawful evil who would run pretty close to the rules, but kind of a killer GM. Chaotic evil that, like, rules are more like guidelines. And then, like, I think the dungeon master should really strive for more of a lawful, neutral sort of take, where they don't really give a shit how things go.
I think you're a little awful in the chaotic evil, though.
Yeah.
The rules is a guideline. No, rules are something to look at and laugh at.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I know another suggestion is, instead of just trying to leave the group, if you're playing with a bunch of friends and you don't want to damage friendships, if it's possible, you could stay with that group, deal with the hardships that's there. I know it can be painful at times, but seek another night that you might be able to get some of those people and start another group. Try to see if there's anybody else that you might be able to pull in, and as that group builds, you might be able to wean yourself off of the other group and strengthen.
If the dungeon master is a friend, though, I guarantee you he's going to eventually find out about it, and then, like, oh, you're gaming this other night and didn't invite me to it. Like, I mean, by that point, you might as well take the tact of you running the game yourself.
Well, that's true.
And at least as a PC, there's not that much. Well, I mean, they could be...
The damage is mitigated.
Yeah, they could be unless they're, like, a major wrench thrower as a player as well.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, like, that's kind of the only tact if you want to preserve friendships, because you start that second game and they're gonna get wind of it. It's gonna happen.
And going back to Steve, like, even though he was a killer GM, as a player his characters might be outlandish, but they always conform to the game.
Right.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a problem player.
No,
he was only a problem player once you get him behind the screen, and then he's like,
unlimited power. Yeah. When he put on the red robes and grew out those, like,
sideburns and
gray long
yeah.
sideburns. Yeah.
It was all over.
Yeah.
So, guys, in the description, or not in the description, that's where we write, not you.
In the comments
below, fill us in and fill them up with all your horror stories from bad GMs.
Or what you've done because you've had one.
Or because you were one.
Yeah, there you go. Or, yeah, maybe moments how you reformed from being one.
Yeah, do we have any reformed
redemption
bad
stories?
GMs? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
You can also find us over on Twitter.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.
Your level of enjoyment.
So this is something that comes up in the comments over and over again. Like, what do I do about a bad DM? What do I do about a bad GM? And really, the answer is very complex or very simple, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right.
The short of it is, if you don't enjoy playing in that game, leave the game, find a game you do enjoy. Because at the end of the day, we've said
Willing to find a group of people that want to play a game like this.
they're out there somewhere. I'm
Maybe.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, there's also the killer DM.
Yeah.
Right. For all types, there is somebody out there looking for that style of game, and I think they're.
I'm fucking.
It's just a matter of finding the group that is going to match your playing style and your.
Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Nerdarchy Steve.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And today we're going to talk Dungeons and Douchebags. What to do when you have a terrible dungeon master.
Jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game nerdy tips for your RPGs, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
All right, so bad DMs, we've all been there, all done that, and we've had them, we've been them.
Well, let's categorize it, because there's several different ways that a GM or DM can be a bad DM.
Yeah, let's not talk about the people that are just, like, learning the rule set and just trying to figure out how to run a game, but people that just run games in terrible, terrible ways.
Yeah,
that, make you feel icky and want to shower after
I feel like they're all worth mentioning, though, and maybe addressing a little bit, because someone might need some help.
Yeah.
Right.
You have the inexperienced GM, you have the inept GM, and then you have the GM that it's not so much that he's a bad GM, but he plays the game different than you.
Right.
Well, but sometimes so drastically different that you're like, who the fuck do you play Dungeons and Dragons like? Like, where are you